Hi, good morning. This morning we're going to do a quick review of the theory for hemiplegia and hemiparesis. We're still in the nervous system, and the conditions that we're going to study today is hemiplegia and hemiparesis. Now, the part of the book where you can read the theory, I'm going to show you here. It's in the page 209. Here's at page 209. And this is, if you can take a shot of this, if you don't have the book, they can pause it and then you can read it. All right, this is the theory that we're going to do. It's a good idea that you read this first and then watch this video to understand what's going on. Okay, that's enough. Now, as usual, we have here like a little summary of what we're going to do in the next 4 exercises. The page where the exercises are is 209. There are 4 exercises there, 1, 3, 2, 4, and the title of the exercise is hemiplegia, hemiparesis, and this is that YouTube code where you're going to find this theory, okay? All right, let's start with defining what is hemiplegia and hemiparesis and what is the difference. Hemiplegia is paralysis of one side of the body, either the right side or the left side. And now the difference between hemiplegia and hemiparesis is that hemiplegia is total paralysis. You cannot move your hand and your foot at all. And hemiparesis is not total paralysis, but it is weakness, and the side that is affected is not as usual as it was before, but it's kind of weak, right? So it's like semi-paralysis, okay? So that's the only difference. And they're both treated, for coding purposes, they're both treated equally. Hemiplegia or hemiparesis is the same thing. Now, the case that the book explains in detail is a hemiparesis that is a consequence of CVA, or cerebrovascular accident. When you have a cerebrovascular accident, acute cerebrovascular accident, then you have hemiplegia or hemiparesis, right? And now, one of the things that you have, if you can point to this table, if it's a little confusing, you can pause it there and study a little bit this table. This is a table for the dominant and non-dominant sides. And let me explain to you how the table works. The dexterity means the ability of the person to use the hands. The first row is ambidextrous, which means that he can use the right or the left hand equally. The second row is if the person is right-handed, and the same thing applies if in the text they don't tell you whether it's right-handed, left-handed, ambidextrous, or if it's undefined, it's exactly the same as it's right-handed. Why? Because most of the people are right-handed. So if they don't tell you, then we assume that it's right-handed. The third is for the people who are left-handed, right? This is the dexterity. Now, the side affected means what side do you have? Let me just correct this a little bit here because it's the side affected, right? Okay. What side was affected with the hemiplegia or hemiparesis? The left or the right, the left or the right, the left or the right. And now, in order to code this, we use this column. So if the patient is ambidextrous, and the side affected was the left side, then we code it as a dominant side. If the patient is ambidextrous, and the side affected is the right side, we still code it dominant because the ambidextrous has both sides dominant. If the patient is right-handed and his left side is affected, then it's non-dominant. If the patient is right-handed or is unspecified and the side affected is the right one, then it's dominant. If the patient is left-handed and the left side is affected, then it's dominant. And if the patient is left-handed and the right hand is affected, it's non-dominant. Just keep this table handy, and if you have any problems to see what side is dominant or not, or if the condition is the dominant is the left or the right, just go back to this table, okay? Now, 3 more points. The number point is transient. Transient means that it has a very short duration. Hemiplegia, transient hemiplegia means that you can have hemiplegia and then you can have hemiplegia, let's say for an hour or 2 hours, and then it goes away. Even before you're discharged, it goes away. But it still affects the patient, so it still has to be coded. Even if at the time of discharge it went away, you still have to code transient. The other thing is that not inherent. Not inherent means that the condition doesn't always happen. It happens sometimes, but not all the time. So it's not inherent. So when you have CVA, sometimes you have hemiplegia, hemiparesis, sometimes you don't have it at all. So since it's not inherent, we need an extra code to describe that it happened, right? Now the last point is the late effect. When you have CVA and you didn't have hemiplegia, you get discharged, and the next day you have hemiplegia, and you come back to the hospital with hemiplegia because the previous day you have a CVA, that's a late effect, and then we need a special code for that. Okay, well, again, read the theory, and we have made a little flashcards for you to review the theory that we're going to play right now as I take the camera from Stephanie. And Stephanie is going to handle the website. And our star pets take over for a few seconds while we're getting ready. Okay, you ready, Stephanie?
Yep.
Okay, there are 16 questions, right?
Right.
I'm going to read the first questions, and Stephanie is going to read the answers, and then we're going to switch. Okay, question number 1. Paralysis of one side of the body is HH.
Hemiplegia and hemiparesis.
Good. Next question. Hemiplegia is classified, we're talking about ICD-10, it's classified to this category in ICD-10.
G81.
G81. To indicate the side affected, left or right, and whether it is dominant or not, we need an F character.
Fifth character.
Okay, fifth. Next. When there is no indication of the dominant side, always choose dominant if the patient is A.
Ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous. Okay. 5. If you don't know whether a patient is ambidextrous or not, and the left side is affected, then choose N.
Non-dominant.
Okay. Next question. If you don't know whether a patient is ambidextrous or not, and the right hand is affected, then choose D.
Dominant.
The rules for dominant applies for the codes for hemiplegia and M.
Monoplegia.
Monoplegia. Just a little explanation of what monoplegia is. Monoplegia is just the paralysis of, for instance, the legs only or the arms only, not both of them, not the whole side, but just like half of it. Okay, let's keep going. When a condition comes and goes quickly, it is called T.
Transient.
Transient, okay? Now, Stephanie's going to read the questions.
9. After a CVA, cerebrovascular accident, the patient usually has TH.
Transient hemiplegia.
10. When a condition always occurs, it is called I.
Inherent.
11. Hemiplegia is not inherent to a cerebrovascular accident.
Acute.
12. When conditions are not inherent, we need an additional C.
Code.
Right. 13. Even if a transient condition resolves without treatment, it affects the patient's C.
care.
14. Any neurological deficits caused by CVA, cerebrovascular accident, should be reported even when they have resolved at the time of D.
Discharge.
15. If a patient is admitted at a later time with hemiplegia due to sequela of CVA, this is called an LE.
Late effect.
16. To code late effects, use this category.
I-69. Okay, and then we end this little theory presentation for hemiplegia and hemiparesis with an invitation for you to go to our website. There you go. Thank you.